Welcome to the Hero's Journey podcast, episode 13. For all the fun and excitement, we are following Golden Age superheroes from Marvel and DC from back in their origins. We're still working our way through the Golden Age. We're 1943 these days. As you watch these characters evolve through the comic books, you will also get to watch this podcast evolve, and hopefully it gets better and more exciting as time goes on. I'll try to add some new elements that seem to make sense as each episode. All right, let's get down to it. So right now I'm going to share my screen so you can see what's going on. Perfect. So first up, we have Action Comics number 62 from DC, July 1943. In this comic, I was reading the Superman story and the Zatara story. I like this cover. You got Superman taking some bullets, trying to defend a soldier. Always during World War II. There was a recent CGC sale. It was a 7.5 in September of the month, September 2020, for $1,348. That's a fair chunk, good cover. I don't think anything too exciting happens in this issue. Now I'll tell you, after I read this issue, I was moving on and I thought maybe it would be better served to talk a little about what happens in these stories that I'm reading about, not just tell you developments or appearances. So starting with this issue right here in this podcast, I'm going to give you a little bit more of a tidbit about what's going on. So this is All-American Comics number 51. It's in DC, from DC, July 1943. The Green Lantern battles Astro, who's a fake medium, and he uncovers a murder plot by an acquaintance. It's the only appearances of these characters, a bit of a twist ending to this story. So it was actually an interesting read. The next story I read was Atom 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 versus some crooked sports gamblers. Following that, Dr. Midnight versus Malcolm Mum, who's the master of silence, was his only appearance, not a memorable villain. So this issue had the most recent CGC sale I could find was 5.0 in February of 2016 for $249. I expect that sale was a while ago. Issues probably more valuable these days. Next up, we have All Flash number 11, DC, July 1943. So this was a full-length Flash story with appearances by Winky, Blinky, and Naughty. They are dealing with doubles from another planet. So basically, this is a whole Flash comic. All 60 pages are about the Flash, and that story is broken into 4 different chapters. And it's made for an interesting story, good read. It makes for a little long though when you're reading. I find it's a little long when you're reading a story that's full 60 pages. The story seems to run on. It sort of run out of ideas. Anyways, a recent CGC sale 5.0 in March 2017 for $202.50. Again, older sale. This comic might be worth more these days. Next up, we have the Blue Beetle 23 from Hollyoak, July 1943. So in this one, the Blue Beetle battles Nazis in Holland. Now, starting in this issue, we're down to 1 Blue Beetle story. Previously, there were 2 stories in the issues for a little while, and before that, there were 3. Now we're down to 1 Blue Beetle story. There was a recent 9.4 sale in May of 2016 for $1,049. Always impresses me when you get comics that are 9.4 for something that's almost 80 years old. Now, next up, we have Captain America Comics 28, from Timely, July 1943. This is another Alex Schomburg cover. Alex Schomburg, I've mentioned previously, but he creates these wonderfully detailed covers. It's really unfortunate that there's so much trade dress taking up this cover. It's about almost a third of the comic gone to trade dress. I love these covers. There's so much to see. could look at these for a long time and always see something different and new. You got Nazis in the background fighting it out. Bucky's bound again, about to get crushed. Captain America's coming to the rescue, flying through the chains. Lots going on. Action-packed cover. Alex Schomburg, popular artist. So in this comic, you have Captain America, who battles a foe named the Mad Torso. It was his only appearance, and he was working with the Nazis. Human Torch tries to survive against a Nazi that uses voodoo to kill. And then in the final story, Captain America and Bucky fight against savage birdmen and Japanese soldiers. Very exciting. So recent CGC sale in June of 2020 for $1,225. That's a fair chunk of change for a 2.0 in a comic book where nothing really exciting happens. So you got decent stories, 2 Captain America stories, Human Torch story, and then you also have an Alex Schomburg cover. So I guess that's what comes together to make it this particular issue command a premium. Now we're back to DC. Detective Comics, number 77, July 1943. In this issue, the Batman battles against the crime doctor. It's his first appearance. I mean, he's obviously not a rogues, one of the major character, and he's not one of the major villains in Batman's rogues gallery. He does have maybe a dozen couple dozen appearances in over the years, but certainly not a major character. But it is his first appearance. And then Crimson Avenger battles the Midnight Menace and the Mounted Marauders, and that's their only appearance. It was a recent CGC sale in May of 2020 for $650 for this issue. Okay, moving along. Flash Comics number 43. I have to say, this isn't my favorite Flash cover. It's a little, I don't know, it seems a little juvenile. It goes with the Hawkman story, which is fine, but it doesn't do it for me. So the Flash faces off against some escaped convicts. In Johnny Thunder's story, the Nazis try to steal Peachy Pet's skunks. Obviously, a little more comedy relief. Still makes for a fun story. I liked it. And then the final story I was reading was Hawkman, who tracks down a crook who uses readers to send messages to his readers. Were the books that kids learn to read. Anyway, it was sending messages out to his crew that way, and that's why you have the readers all spread across the cover. And nonetheless, CGC 2.5 in June 2020 sold for $300. So it still commands a fair premium, maybe because of the characters that are in the book. Now back to Marvel. We have Marvel Mystery Comics 45, so timely from July 1943. Another Alex Schomburg cover. Another cover, we have a sidekick bound Nazis. Lots going on. It's Alex Schomburg, of course, so it's well detailed, lots of action. Really good cover, to be honest. And again, you have that Marvel trade dress taking up so much room. You could do so much. You could just add so much more detail in the covers if it didn't have that big red banner across the top. But that stood out for the brand at the time. So the first story is the Human Torch battling Nazis for a message on a dead body. Submariner battles Nazis sending fake weather reports. And we have the Vision, who fights Japanese soldiers searching for the secret to immortality. Now, in this story, the Vision explains that he was the first High Lama of Shangri-La, and he gave himself immortality. So I guess that ties into his origin story of where further explains his origin story and how he now lives in the smoke world as an immortal. Now, this is the first appearance of Shangri-La in comics. So if you're somehow a fan of Shangri-La, this could be your holy grail. And then in the final story I was reading, the Angel flushes out a Nazi saboteur. Now, again, you have a comic that commands a premium when it comes up for sale. You have a recent CGC 2.5 sale from July of 2020 for $1,440. Is it the characters? Maybe it's the first appearance of Shangri-La. Who knows? But I'm sure the Alex Schomburg cover has a lot to do with it. Now, it's not noted in the story anywhere, but if you notice on the cover on the bottom left, sure looks a lot like the Red Skull. Again, it's not noted anywhere. And he's not in the story, so I certainly wouldn't count that necessarily as an appearance. Now we're on to more fun comics, number 92, still in July of 1943 from DC. In this story, the Green Arrow tries to stop criminals that are using construction machinery they inherited to pull off their heists. And then next up is Dr. Fate, who matches wits with the clock, who has figured out how to get in and out of jail. There's a Mr. Who cameo as well. I believe this might be the second and final appearance of the clock. Aquaman follows an old ship on some adventures. And then Johnny Quick saves a bet gone wrong by playing as a whole baseball team. A little bit of comedy relief there again, even though it borders comedy relief with Johnny Quick. Anyway, the Spectre takes over a ventriloquist dummy and helps Percival Pop catch the mole. This was a weird Spectre story, kind of Spectre, very serious type of character, a little on the goofy side for him to take over ventriloquist dummy and help Percival Pop, who's sort of the comic relief of the story. But he helps Percival Pop catch the mole, which I believe in this case the mole was it's the only appearance of this version of this character, the mole. Anyway, you have the most recent sale I could find was a CGC 3.5 from March 2014 for $164. And that'll do it. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode where I've managed to put more description into the comics that I'm reading. So now you know more about what's going on in these comics. If you're looking to buy them, you're looking to read them, you'll have a better idea. So again, characters evolving, get to see what's going on with them. And then this podcast also evolves as well. Tune in next time. You never know what you're going to find that I'll be up to next. Anyway, thank you very much. Take care.